So let's log into the Apicurio. I mentioned in my article, I actually have two server that is running and installed on my laptop. One is the Apicurio at the port 8080 and Microcks on the port 9080. So let's look at the Apicurio first. So when we enter a localhost, you will notice that the authentication or login will be actually directed to the cloud version of the Keycloak because we are using a quick start version of API Courier. So I have actually registered myself as a user using my email. Of course, you can use the GitHub. Yeah, if you have a GitHub account, you can use a GitHub account to do similar authentication using your GitHub account or using a Google account. So let's proceed. So once you log in, you'll be bring to this dashboard. You can see I have actually pre-created one API design document here. You can actually import if you have already created the OpenAPI standard or OpenAPI based API design document. You can actually import from GitHub, from whatever source control system that you have, or you can just import from file by copying into the clipboard and paste into here. Okay, so let's look at how easy it is to just create a new API document. So let me call this is API simple API. This is okay. So there's an option of for you to choose whether you want to base on API 2.0 or API 3.0.2. So if you choose API 2.0, later on you will not be able to sync this document to Microcks. Remember in our article we're talking about the how we actually do an integration between API Courier and Microcks. So if you choose this version 2.0, you will not see the button that I'm going to show you later. So let's proceed to 3.0.2, and there is some example here, right? So for a demo purpose, I'll just choose a pet store example and click on create API. So once you create the API, you will see that it brings you to this API detail page. You can actually you will see that there is a button here where you can actually mock with Microcks, right? So this button only show when you have enabled the Microcks integration by passing in the parameters when you start the API Courier server. Let's try with the mock with the Microcks for this API docs. Click on here, mock API. Okay, you can see there's a API mocking successfully. Just click on OK. So we will come back to this detail page again. So you can see there's activity logs created. So in the API Courier, when you is a platform for collaboration, you can have many people that actually sign on to the API Courier and work on the API Courier API design, and you will see all the activity logs appears in the API Courier, right? So let's do a quick one on view on Microcks. Okay, so it bring you to the Microcks. So I will log in using the ID, and you can see that the my simple API is actually appear in the Microcks itself, right? So this is how easy it is for you to do a synchronization between the API Apicurio Studio with the Microcks. So let's head back to the API Curio again. We'll come back to the Microcks in a later demo. And I have created API docs for my payment gateway API. So this is the API design document that I intended to use for my payment gateway demo. So I actually will be creating this API document, and later on I'll import this into the fields online that is running on top of OpenShift. But I will not be covering that in this tutorial or demo. I'll be creating another tutorial demo on how we can actually import the OpenAPI design doc into the fields online. So mainly, as for your information, this is API design doc that I'm created for that purpose. Okay, so in here you can define many information and tag for your API documents, right? And you can use a UI to change or enter whatever information that you need. You can also go to the source and edit the source itself. Okay, so this is quite flexible. And you'll notice that I have created two API context path here. So one is called credit. So this mainly will actually to allow the consumer of this API to actually create a target account for payment transaction, right? So actually I have created one operation which is a post method, and what it does is that it just accept payment information or payment data type as the application JSON format, right, as in the request body. Okay, and you can define many things here, right? If you have any requirement that you must pass in certain information or authentication information through the headers and so on, you can actually define all in here, right? And for this API, I actually created two simple response. One is 201, which indicate the payment is actually being successfully credited, and for this it will actually reply with in the response body with a JSON format of a result type. And if something happened in the server side where probably the information is not correct and so on, for example the account number is not found, so I'll return a 404, right? So basically it's almost the same for the debit itself, right? Just that they are for two different purposes. One is debit account, one is credit account. So I have two type of data type here, right? Obviously if you want to add more, you can for all these different type of entry, you can just click on here. So I have two data type created here. One is payment. So this is a payment information that the API consumer need to send into the credit or debit to perform the transaction. So I have account number, amount, and so on, right? And in the result itself, other than the some of this payment information, I will actually put in a status as well. Okay, so this is how my API design looks like in the Apicurio Studio. So if you look at here, right, so we actually based on OpenAPI 3.0.2. So we actually will do a validation with the API that I'm trying to create. So you come to here in the setting, you can see there is a setting of a validation. So by default, when you install Apicurio, it has all these so-called validation rules that is actually created by default, right? So in here, let's go back to my API again. So you'll notice I have a issue here. So what it's trying to tell me is that, okay, for my API that I created in here with this header, actually this is not going to be used. This is something that is extra, not necessary. So yes, we came out a validation problem or error for me. So it say that the accept header parameter will be ignored, right? So yeah, so you have all these OpenAPI validation performed for you by Apicurio, which is very cool, right? So if you're not very familiar with OpenAPI, and with the UI kind of guided approach for you to define all your API, and you have done certain configuration or design that is not conform to the OpenAPI standards, you get a warning or validation problems or error or so messages that show to you that you need to take some action to correct that problem, right? So if you can see here, uh, the problem description is quite clear and easy to understand. So once I have done this, right, obviously I can also look at my live documentation, right? So this serve as a very good platform for you to proper document down your API as well. So you can see all these you can generate a so-called HTML based kind of API documentation, right? And it's quite easy to read and understand by your team member who are non-technical as well. Okay. So let's come back to the API landing page again. I want to show you some of the features in the studio as well. So if you click on this menu here on your API, there are a few options here. One is obvious. I have shown you the preview documentation. You can also share the API documentation with someone. Basically, it will generate a public. If you have a public accessible URL, someone will actually be able to use your URL to look at your API docs. So let's copy it, and basically it will look something like this. So anyone that if you want to have someone to actually help you to or share your API doc with someone without them to having log into the system, this is a very useful for collaboration and feedback. Okay. The other option is that you can actually click on the collaborate. In here, you actually can invite someone to create an account and log into Studio and help to edit or create the API design. So it will actually generate a invitation link that you can send to whoever that you want to invite. Obviously you can make a copy if you want to reuse the same API docs for others API design, right? This is a quite easy and quick way. In the Apicurio, we actually have enabled the integration with Microcks. Basically, the integration allows you to create your API design in Studio and later on import or sync the API design in Microcks to do mocking and testing. So there's a two-way of doing this. One is that I have actually enabled the integration that you can see the button is here. You can I've actually performed one time earlier to import or sync the API docs to the Microcks. So in here you can see the button change the view. So this is one way with a tight integration. The other way is that you can publish this API design doc to source control systems such as like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. So in order to do that, you actually need to go to your setting and link those accounts in your Studio, right? So in here I have actually linked my GitHub account with the studio, right? So you can do that for GitLab or Paperbucket as well. So let's head back to the API again. So once you have the link account enabled or created, you can go to the publish, select on the GitHub, and you will log in to the GitHub using the keycloak OpenID, and you can see that this is my GitHub account. And if I will need to have to pre-create the repo in my GitHub. So obviously I have not done so, right? So if you will need to do that, you will have to pre-create your repo, and you can choose the repo and then commit and sync this API design doc into the GitHub or source control system. So in here you can choose what kind of format of the design doc that you want to commit to the GitHub. Okay, so once you have this so-called API doc commit and sync to the GitHub, and then you can go to Microcks and import the API design doc from the GitHub itself. Okay, so this is how you some of the features that is built in into the studio itself. You can also download the design doc as the JSON format in the in your local disk, and then you can take that and keep a copy. And if you somehow, let's say your project corrupted in the Apicurio and you do not have a copy in the GitHub, you can actually take that copy and import it here again, right? So yep, so that is the studio itself. So the next I'm going to talk about is how we can do a API mocking and test in the Microcks. Now let's look at our API again. So from here I have actually mocked or synced the API doc to the Microcks. So if I click on view, so it brings me to here. So in the Microcks itself, you can do two type of API mocking and test. One is you can see here I have two post method here. One is credit, one is debit. So if I show the details, right, you can see there is a mock URL created for the my API design. So there's two status here, right? One also called response. One is for success, one is for not found. I changed a little bit for this naming. So if you look at here, this is the called REST API URL provided by Microcks, where you can actually do a quick mock testing on your API design. The other type of API test that Microcks provide is the API contract testing. So I'm not going to cover API contract testing today because in order to do the API contract testing, I will need to have code to implement all the logic for my API and deploy my API into or have it running, and then only there I can do a contract testing. So basically API contract testing is to run a test of your API design and specs with the with the actual running API that the developer has developed and deployed into the server itself. So today I'm going to just purely focus on the mocking of the API. So the API mock response here is actually corresponding to um, the API design that you have created earlier. So if you come back to the credit in my pause method, I have two response created here, right? One is the 201, one is 404. So I have a example created here, which is with success, and then the other one is with not found. So whenever you create your response in your API design, other than specifying the type of the response body and the data object or the data format itself, you will need to actually create examples. So if you are creating your API doc design without the examples, and when you import or sync this API design doc to your Microcks, you won't be able to see this, right? So you have to create these examples. So in this case, if you notice, I actually have changed the response to something that is using a more generic templates. So if let's say I do, so if let's say the response is success, then I'll respond the message with status which is success, and taking the account number, source account, and amount value from the body that is sent in by the API consumer, right? So this is very much better, right, in order to do mock testing. For not found, I'll just respond status with failed. Okay, so in the Microcks itself, there's one thing how you can actually do a kind of mocking when you go to this edit the properties, right? So I actually created a dispatcher rules based on the JSON body. So you can actually read some of this tutorial example that is provided here. Basically, you can create dispatcher rules based on the URI parameter that is passing or part of the URI or the UI elements. So the whole idea of these rules is that you can base on the information that you send in through the API call and do a proper dispatcher of what you want to respond. So in this case, my dispatchers is based on a JSON body, and you can actually in the dispatcher rules itself, for my expression, I want to look for the account number in my request body. When this account number is equal to this hard-coded account number, then I'll put a success. I will actually respond with the success criteria, success response. If other than that, I will just with the default option, I will just respond with the not found. Okay, so back to here, when I have account number equals to this, I'll respond with the success response with this value. If not found, I will respond with this. So once I have this, I can actually submit a request and test it out. So if you look at here, I have account number which is end with 0000 and 111, and the rest is the same, and submit to the credit. So this is the account number that should simulate the account not found response. So when I submit to it, so you'll see that the status is failed. Okay, so if I try with one that is actually hard-coded in the dispatcher rules, and you will see it returned with a success and taking all the corresponding value from the request body itself. Okay, so this is basically how you can test your API using the Microcks. So let's get back to here. So whenever you need to change uh, the response code or message in here, right, you can't do it in Microcks. What you need to do is that, for example, I need to add on um, so-called another message here, right, or another value here. So I need to come back to here and click on the not found, for example, and edit it and put in things such as message, and say target account not found. Okay, and I will do the same for the debit. So once you have done that, you go back to the API page again, and you will see that Studio actually recognize that is a change in the API design doc, and you can actually click on update mocks in the macrox and just do it. And when you come back to here, right, so do a refresh, you will see that okay, the changes has been updated here, right? So let's come back to here, and if I do a fail account not found posting, so I can see that the message is actually come up here. Okay, so this actually conclude a very quick demo how you can actually perform the API design using Studio, and subsequently seamlessly perform the API mocking using the Microcks.